Let's move from talking about the project window over to the right and talk about the composition window. Now, before I do that, I do want to point out that your interface might not look the same as mine does. Why is that? You have the ability in After Effects to take any of these windows, take them and put them wherever you want. For example, normally when I work in After Effects, I work in a dual monitor environment. So what I like to do is I like to take that composition window and take it and put it over on my second monitor so I can have it full screen so that I can really see exactly what's going on in any composition that I'm working on. Now the composition window is just that. It's a window for you to see what composition you're working in and exactly what's going on with what you're creating down here at the bottom in your timeline. Now you'll also notice that when I double clicked on that projector clip, it actually opened a new window beside the composition window that was simply called footage. Let's take our meditation clip. I'm just going to double click on it here. You'll see there's that footage window open, so I can now quickly drag through and get an idea of exactly what's going on with any clip in my project. Now I do want to point out at the bottom of the footage window, you'll notice that green bar. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select a different clip here. Let's just select this one. You'll notice no green bar. But as I start to click through, you'll notice those little green dots appear. These are being cached by After Effects for better playback. Now we're going to talk more about previewing in an upcoming lesson, so don't worry about that too much right now, but I did just want to bring that to your attention. Okay, so the composition window, once we create a new composition, you'll see any clip that we have in our timeline as we drag through will be displayed for us so we can get in and see the effects that we are creating. Now, of course, we come down to the bottom and we talk about the timeline, which works directly in conjunction with your compositions. Anytime you double click on a composition in the project window, it will appear down here in the timeline in a tabbed way, and you'll see what I mean by that in an upcoming lesson, so that you can quickly click through the tabs, drag through your timeline, and see the results of it up here in the composition window. Now over here on the right, we do have a bunch of different smaller windows. Now what do all of these represent? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to remove the wiggler here just for a second. Perfect. Okay. So what these windows represent for me specifically is the most common windows that I need for my day-to-day workflow. So for example, the preview window, the character and paragraph windows, and the effects and presets. Those are the windows that I use pretty much on a regular basis. You know, I'd probably say every minute to 2 minutes inside of After Effects, I'm going to one of those windows. However, in your workflow, depending on what it is, you might need access to different windows. For example, the wiggler. So all you need to do to get access to the wiggler is simply head on over to the window dropdown, come down to whichever window you want. In our case, the wiggler. I'm simply going to select it, and you'll see because I had it tabbed over beside the effects and presets window, it's going to go back there. So if I come down and let's just select the tracker, you'll see the tracker appears at the bottom beside the timeline window. Now if I didn't want the wiggler here, let me just close that panel, and I wanted to put the tracker up beside the effects and presets window, all I have to do is simply grab it, drag it up right beside effects and presets. You'll see that it appears in the first position. So now all I have to do is simply grab effects and presets, drag it over to the left beside the tracker, and I now have everything organized the way that I want it. Now, with that being said, you might want to create different After Effects layouts or workspaces for you to easily switch back and forth to when working in specific compositions. So how do you go about doing that? If you head on up to the window dropdown and you come to Workspace, you'll see that right here are all the different workspaces that you have access to by default inside of After Effects. Normally what I'm doing is getting in and altering the standard workflow, which again for me, effects and presets, character, paragraph, and preview. And then what I'll do is I will create new workspaces for me to get in and have access to if I'm doing tracking or if I'm doing painting or if I'm doing, masking or other tasks like that. You even have the ability to get in and edit workspaces. You'll see that we have something called bar here, which represents the bar that we have at the top of our interface here. But for me, to be honest, I take these and I put them into the do not show because it's very rare that I'm switching back and forth between my different workspaces because I really have one workspace that I'm using probably about 95% of the time. And if I need to have access to it, I'm normally just coming up to Window, coming to Workspace, and switching it from here. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about creating compositions and seeing them in the composition window, so let's see that now in practice and create our first composition.